Hey, and welcome to this video where we are going to describe how to properly unwrap shoelaces for your 3D designs. In this quick tutorial, this first round lace is a direct import from the assets in Gravity Sketch. This second shoelace is another direct import of an asset from Gravity Sketch, and this third shoelace just a little bit more complicated in how it's been tied up and wrapped around. Is a design that we modeled up using Gravity Sketch, and they've all been exported as an FBX with a texture applied. And what I've done is, with the texture, I've used Node Wrangler, and effectively I have selected the principal BSDF and press Control T and added in my coordinates, deleted this image, and I'll just delete what I added in there, and I just joined it all up to the image that was imported from Gravity Sketch and removed the normal. For this purpose, we're using UVs, and what we'll need to do is we'll need to unwrap the UV for these, and they'll all be the same. Effectively, if I come here into wireframe view, what we need to look at is where will we choose to unwrap our UV. So maybe what I'll do is I'll make sure that I've got my edge mode selected here, and I'll just go through holding Alt, and I'll just try and find the best seam. And actually, that doesn't look too bad. That looks pretty good. It runs all the way up to the center, and then on the other side it nearly does the same thing. I can hold Shift Alt and then click on this piece, and we can see here that we've got a mismatch in our data. So what we'll do is we'll just get our knife and we'll cut from this endpoint to the center here. Okay, and we'll add that little selection in, and then we'll right click and we'll say Mark Seam. And now what we've done is we've marked our seam for our UV unwrapping on this one. Okay, so let's come over here to the flat lace and have a look. And on the flat lace, it probably makes sense to have it along one of these edges here. So if I come in here and I hold down Alt and I click on that, that sharp edge probably makes a lot of sense to have the seam, particularly where it comes up and into these areas. But we might want to have the seam running across along the back, so we could press Alt here. But we notice on this model, this default lace that's come out of Gravity Sketch, that here it'll run up, the seam will run across the top, then it's running in underneath, then it's running across the top again, and really the model isn't orientated right for a nice seam join. Unless we get our texture perfect, it's not going to work well for a rendering. So maybe we'll say that we want to just use an edge here. Maybe that works well for us. Still going to see it here, so then let's click on this edge here and just use that as a default. So I'm going to right click and say Mark Seam, and then come right in here and look at these intersections. And again, I need to, let's just adjust our clipping view, just add 2 extra zeros in here. What we need to do is, again, with our knife tool, we can press K on the keyboard, is just to cut in here. Hang on, let's just do that properly. From here to here, enter. select it, right click and mark seam, and then let's go over to the other side and have a little look. And all we have to do is hold Alt and click, and then add in mark our seam. Okay, so now we've marked our seam for this one. Alright, and then let's look at this final design, this final lace here. And we basically want to do the same thing, is that we want to find a good spot to join that up. And what I might do is just come to the front here and rotate it around to the back. Maybe I'll go Alt on here, see where that goes. It's mainly around the back. And if I come to the front, yeah, it's pretty good actually. A little bit up here. Maybe it could be hidden a little bit more. Let's try and choose this one here. Yeah, that looks alright. I'm happy. Let's add that seam. So let's go right click and mark seam. And then let's go in and look at our endpoints. Okay, this one needs to be cut, so press K. Cut that in there, press enter, right click, mark seam, and then let's go over to this other endpoint and do the same thing. Okay, click on this endpoint, click on this endpoint, enter, right click, and mark seam. Okay, so now that we've got our seams, we can go in and unwrap them. So it's going to be the same process for all three. So what I'll do is I'll unwrap these two, and then I'll show you how to unwrap this one here that's more complex. In fact, I'll unwrap both and show you how I do this one. So I'll just hover over here and get this plus symbol, and I'll pull out a new window. Press N and hide this away, press N, hide that away, and I'll come up here and just go to UV editor. So now I've got my UV editor here, and I'll select that lace, and I will go into edit mode, A, come in here, press A, and then U for unwrap, and then U for unwrap. And now that lace has been unwrapped, and here's the texture that was brought in from Gravity Sketch. Now what we need to do is to just come in here and choose one of these faces. And using UV squares, go to grid by shape, and we can notice here we've got a nice shape. Press L on the keyboard, right click and say follow active quads. And now we've got a nice straight shoelace. We can see that it hasn't really rendered out properly on our view. So if we scale our shoelace up so that it is 1 unit wide. Okay, so this is 0, this is 1, this is 0, this is 1, and over in this corner here it's 1, 1 in units. So let's just bring this into play. Let's scale it up roughly. Now we can see that we've got this texture mapped on here. And if we go tab out of edit mode, we can see here we've got our texture. If we tab back into edit mode and scale this up a little bit more, tab back out, we can see that we've got this texture on our lace. Okay, so let's do the same thing for the next one. So we just click it. Let's go tab into edit mode. Here's the texture. Press A for all. Come in here. A, U, U. It's unwrapped our lace. Zoom in. Click on one of these. To active grid by shape. Press L. Right click, follow active quads. Come back out here. S for scale, scale it right up. We can see our texture changing here. Press G, move it into place. S, G, and we can get our texture correct. We'll just move it around a little bit and scale it up. And that looks pretty good on that lace. Let's press tab to get out of edit mode. And then finally on this one here, what we're going to do is the same thing. Press tab, go into edit mode. Press A to select all. We can see how much of a spaghetti it is. Press A. Okay. U for unwrapping. Zoom in. Select one of them. To grid by shape. L. Right click. Follow active quads. Then we can scale up. G. Move it into place. And then scale it up a little bit more. Just look at what a normal lace is, and what we're trying to do is just get a plausible representation of a shoelace on our shoe. And there we have it. In effect, using UV squares, we can easily unwrap a shoelace and apply our texture correctly to it for visualization. So in the final preparation for this model, what I'm going to show you is how to just use the node wrangler to bring in all the required elements to make the texture pop into 3D. So we're going to use the node wrangler, and we're going to select our principal BSDF, and then we're going to press Control Shift T, and I've got these materials that I've downloaded, and I'll put the link to this Simulation Therapy Dynamic Rope texture pack. And if I click on rope 1, I'm basically going to choose the color. I'm going to choose the diffuse, the height, and I want to choose the color. Actually, I won't choose the diffuse, I'll choose the normal and the roughness. And I will select principal texture. And the node wrangler brings all of this together for us and applies it. We've already done our UVs, but I'm just going to choose this same pattern here. So I've already got it, but I know that in here it is rope 5. I open that, and there's our rope back. And we can see here that texture is popping out, but it looks a bit funny, right? And that's because what we need to do is in the displacement, we need to change its scale from 1 to 0.001 and press enter. And now it tames down that displacement on that shoelace. And there we have it. We've applied our textures using node wrangler, and we have given it its texture. We've straightened it out. We've re-looked at the normal for that. So if I go tab A, we've straightened it all up, and we've applied that. The only interesting last trick that I'll show to everyone is the ability to quickly add subdivision by just going Control 2, and we've added 2 levels of subdivision to our model. Do the same here, Control 3. Now we've added 3 levels of subdivision. We could just go Control 1, now it'll make it 2 levels. So it's a really nice, quick way of adding in very quick subdivision to our model. We can go Control O and remove all levels of subdivision. And we can right click and shade smooth. And there we have it.